am here outside with the sun. But I said I would. So I'm going to the best of my ability. The last maybe week or so, I haven't been able to come outside much because of weather. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm grateful for the sun, even though it's hot. Hotter than usual. Anyway, I've spent a lot of time trying to focus on healing me without focusing on what hurt me. All the things that did hurt me. And a big struggle of mine, maybe yours, is what to do about the leftovers. And I'll call them leftovers because for me, that's what it feels like. So I can heal. I can discover the parts of me that maybe need some mending. I can also discover the parts of me that I sabotage myself. But biggest struggle, biggest hurdle that I've had, and I reflected on a whole bunch, is understanding what to do about the things that weren't my responsibility. Because sometimes that has distracted me from being able to heal. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times I feel like I am too big to address something. I am too big. And when I say too big, I mean energetically, intellectually, spiritually, cognitively, any way you want to think of, because I took the time to learn things that maybe others haven't, or for some reason I've been given tasks to do or to endure that others maybe haven't. And it's been this way since long before I even touched anybody's college campus. And so when someone harms me, I tend to go inward, figure out what I did first, and then come back. Now, what the problem with that is it builds up over time, and then boom, that next thing. And then it's not necessarily a trigger. It's more of a, okay, you are the last person that's going to do this. I'm going to make an example out of you, kind of vibe. But then I go inward again. I'm like, okay, why the hell did you do that? That person wasn't responsible for the rest of that pain. They're responsible for the pain specifically that they caused, right? So coming through that, realizing that there's some area of shadow work that I was not doing. And this is the mastery level for me, not everybody's mastery level is the same. See, I tend to not want to harm or hurt anyone, no matter what they do. But that doesn't mean I'm not left with the scars and the muck and the mess and the trauma and all the stuff. I'd rather just walk away. But that, if I had to learn lessons via different struggles, that means that maybe, and I consider this, maybe, just maybe, I'm keeping someone from learning whatever they need to learn via me responding to something that they've done, but responding in a way where I am defending myself. Now, that's a toughie too, right? Because again, I've learned things and understood things that maybe someone else hasn't. And I always consider that first before taking any action. And then I'm like, nah, I can't do anything about this. I just have to eat it. But after a certain time, it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and then boom. So that's the part of mastery that I'm currently working on, is figuring out how much of that can I eat before I need to go in solitude for a while. Now, that's a practice I've been through. But however, there are times where it still gets to a point where it's like, pop, the balloon pops. I'm like, I don't want that. I want to be able to always have mastery over my mind. Y'all excuse the whistles and the cheers. I enjoy being at parks and around kids and people just enjoying themselves. It's a vibe for me. Plus, I just love this particular park. I've been coming here since I was a little bitty bop, and it's one of the last core memories I had with my mother. So at this park, so I enjoy being here. It just makes me feel a little closer to it, Anyway, but on each layer of understanding itself, because healing is for you to have fun. Did you know? Healing is for you to live in this incarnation, in this body, to have the most enjoyment you can possibly have out of life. Because when you're when you're not healed traumas, can be generational, but when you have not healed traumas, it's very hard to fully enjoy anything. That's been my experience. I don't know about anybody else. It's very, very hard to fully enjoy anything. Why? Because there's always something that's on guard. Or if you are unhealed and do something that is objectively terrible, then now you have to clean up that mess in whatever way that, or you experience a loss or something, right? So in order for you to have the most enjoyment out of life, the encouragement here is to walk a path of healing, not so you can please any deity. I know I'm not, that's not necessarily a popular notion all the time, but maybe it's just to please you. People talk a lot about the higher self. The higher self is their best vibration outside of this meat suit. Maybe please that. Please that so much that you have a wonderful life, an exceptional life, regardless of what's going on around you, because your vibe's straight, right? And that's the part. That actual part that I've been speaking on at the beginning of this conversation is the part that was keeping me from having the most exceptional experience I can have, regardless of what's going on around me. Is the constant feeling that people got away with hurting me over and over and over again. Mostly not because I don't think that they did something wrong. Because again, self-evaluation, self-healing, figuring out my responsibility. Those steps are automatic for me. Always has been, always will be. Doesn't mean I was always had mastery over that in myself. Because it's always a part of you that's ego-based. And the ego is not a bad thing. Killing off the ego is not... It's not exactly killing it. It is killing the part of the ego that is acting out of wounding. And I think that needs to be more specified when people talk about killing the ego. No, you're killing the part of the ego that is reactionary. Because the ego is necessary. It absolutely is necessary. It's the reason why you might wash your ass and, instead of just laying around stanky. It's the reason why we put on makeup or something flashy that makes us feel good, and clothing. It's the reason why you'll defend your position whenever you know you've earned something. Ego is our defense mechanism, right? But if our defense mechanism is injured repeatedly, now it's just reactionary to just about any stimuli. You have absolutely no control over me. Outside forces has control over how you vibrate and how you act. So killing the ego is not necessarily the thing. We're killing off the part, or healing the part that is reactionary. And that's the part that is reactionary within me. Because I don't want to experience any more of that. As soon as I see signs of that, I'm like, okay, so I'm about to bite your whole face off. I'm about to burn that whole... Seriously. And so... it's hard. It's not hard for me to fight back, necessarily. It is hard for me to fight anyone, ever, because I always am in fear of causing them more harm and pain than is necessary for what they've done to me. So I'd rather just back off and let them think they won. It doesn't mean that I don't still feel pain and hurt and all kinds of things because of it. So learning to master that aspect of self. So how do I do that without absolutely jackknifing and destroying the person who is attempting intentionally to cause me harm? How do I do that? That has been the hardest task in finding my bliss and my enjoyment from life. And that's exactly it. Finding your bliss is the end result of your healing. Not you necessarily elevating to some deity type status. It is just for you to actually enjoy your existence. So we already know, if you in a situationship that is unhappy, or at a job that is unhappy, or family members that make you unhappy, you can consistently go around them knowing that they don't either know the real you, accept the real you, or behave respectfully towards you, then you are in action and behavior and vibe contributing to a lack of bliss, a lack of joy, a lack of all of those things. We don't have to hate each other to know that maybe this ain't my vibe. Maybe these ain't my people to be around like that. It's like, just because somebody's different doesn't mean that's bad, right? I know that there's a lot of information out and about on all the spheres all the different layers of dimensions of our current reality that tells you and signals to you that you're supposed to dislike or hate someone who thinks or vibes differently than you. Look, if that person is not currently harming you, I don't see the problem. And even if they are currently harming you, the advice, at least from me, if you won't take it, it's free. It's just vacate, depart, go to wherever isn't harming you. Period. It's not more complicated than that. And if you can't do that, I pray that you find a way, or find some people to help you find that way. Okay? The most recent insight I have about this aspect of myself that I realize I'm still struggling with, because see, there are times between y'all and me that I think I mastered something, and then inevitably the test will come through. Because I've had little tests, mini tests of this particular thing I've struggled with my whole life. And this past Mercury retrograde definitely tested that theory. And I felt like, you know what, I passed. Cool. But on the other side, the intention of the person who tested me was not pure. My initial feelings on it was, I really need to put her in her place, or I really need to teach her a lesson, because clearly she's done this to myself and so many other people that she needs somebody to teach her this. But then I warred with myself and said, all them other people didn't teach her. It ain't my job to teach anybody any lessons in any kind of way. And how does this lead to my bliss? How does this lead to my enjoyment? I really don't care enough to encounter this or do anything about this. But at the end of the day, my ego still needs to be satisfied. And in that sense of my protection, my self-protection is also important. It's like when I bought my house. If I just allow anybody to come in and take what they want, then people will just come in and take I'll never have nothing. If I never use my ego to protect myself, I will never have nothing, because taker's gonna take. And this doesn't mean that someone who's a taker at this current time won't someday be a giver, or be someone who is balanced that gives and takes, because we all do. Right now I'm taking from you, in the sense of I'm asking you to hear me out, and it would be blissful for me for you to learn something from me and appreciate that education. That's a take. But I'm also giving you something, which is information. That's a give. And in that way, it is, for me, balance, right? But I want nothing more than that. Just that. And just in that sense, I have to find my way. So this is me trying. This is me trying to do that in a way that is balanced. So this person who tested this part of me that I am trying to master, friend that I've had for a very, very long time. And my intention is not to cause harm. It's just for me to learn. And maybe if you learn something from this, then cool. I was with her when she was a few times when she was going through something difficult. And she had a tendency to say and do things that was superficial and hurtful for attention. And I knew this about her. Again, when it comes to people, I'm not judgmental. I'm like, everybody got their own crap that they've had to overcome. And anybody didn't know how to overcome it if they're not actively causing harm to anybody. What is it in my business? Is this person kind to me? Is this person mean to anybody around me? No, I've never witnessed her cause harm or be overtly mean to anybody, but I already knew she was a superficial person. It didn't matter to me. She was just my friend, right? Because we all have a tendency to be superficial from time to time. But when she was going through a difficult time, I wanted to be there for her. But I was also going through a difficult time myself. And she's one of the few people that came around when I was going through a difficult time and weren't afraid of me. And I really, really appreciated that. And in return, I was like, you know what? As I learn and grow, I'm going to help her. So as she struggled, I knew what I knew. So I helped her and taught her how I healed a lot of the things that she knew I had gone through. And there were certain moments where she would get frustrated or want to do what she wanted to do. And instead of taking the advisement, and she asked for the advice. I ain't about giving advice, and nobody asks for me typically unless I'm doing this. But you can always just like turn me off. You ain't got to stay here and listen to this, honestly. But so when she asked me to help, I help. When it got inconvenient, it happens from time to time. She would lash out at me or just not listen and do what she wanted to do anyway, and then suffer the consequences of that, then come back to me, and I would just over and over again help her through it, right? But it got to a point where she really hurt my heart when I was teaching her about something I had learned. And so she can understand why maybe doing it differently would be better for her vibe if she wanted to learn how to change that aspect of herself that was causing her problems. Where she cussed me out and it hurt my feelings to the point where I'm in tears. But again, when somebody hurts me, the first thing I do, and it's a trauma response, I'm okay with it, I'm strong enough to deal. But the first thing I do is assume that I did something wrong to the person and evaluate myself, and I apologize to her. And even though it still hurt the way she came at me after all that time, it was been years of helping her through things, I felt, okay, I must figure out how to deliver information better. Something about the way I delivered that upset her. So some months passed and we're still doing our thing, and then I find out that she had a TikTok. She did this behind my back, and I was like, okay, but I guess, I'm not teaching or guiding you anymore, or am I? What's the deal? But she would still daily fill up my phone and talk to me every day. And I'm like, okay, I see clients, I do have a life, just give me, I would set boundaries from here and there, and she would respect them, and then she'd go back to doing the thing. But it didn't make me know, never mind, I wasn't on TikTok. But she kept encouraging me to get on TikTok like months later. I'm like, okay, I did it. It was fun for like a minute before it wasn't fun. But we ain't gonna get into that today. Get to a space where one day, just randomly, some of her original TikToks came through my feed, and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to support my girl. All the things that she cussed me out about, hurt my feelings about, where she went back to TikTok and verbatim told everybody things as if it was her own original words, but it was words I said to her. She never apologized to me for cussing me out, or literally F you. It was bad. Never apologized to me, but also never told me she did that. I guess she figured I was never going to see it because it was months ago, and TikTok's feeds updates hourly. But for some reason, I guess Spirit or the universe or God decided I should see that, and it hurt my heart incredibly bad. When I talked to her about, I'm like, why did you go on there and act like the words that I was saying to you to help you heal was your own words? And she acted like she didn't understand what I was talking about, which I can tell she clearly did. And then she just kept acting like there was nothing wrong with what she did, and it was so incredibly hurtful. So I'm like, I didn't ask you for no donations, I didn't ask you for nothing. Now, there was this one time she did pay for me to go on a trip just as a present, and I appreciated that. But then I only found out that she just, even in that, after all this, I felt like she only wanted me to go so she can continue to use me for my friendships and my connections and to have fun for herself. I'm just like a piece of furniture or some kind of object to her. That's the way I felt afterwards. Like, that wasn't even a gift. She was just using me once again, and that's how I felt about it. Told her to stay away from me, leave me alone. But then more and more stuff coming through, and I got incredible. This is where I realized I still needed to work, right? She's the one who taught me I still need to work on this aspect. I went to school for many, many years, got a degree in psychology, went on ahead and also got a master's degree in clinical mental health, the art, as opposed to the science. I got the science, and then I put the art to back it up, right? And she always told me she admired that and where she had done that, thinks she can do that. And then come to find out she has other aspects out there. I was getting suggestions back to back of different pages she had, and all of it just seemed like it was mimicking me, and it felt like mocking me. Oh, when I tell you I blew her up, I went off, and I immediately felt bad afterwards. No matter what she did to me, it's like, again, you're too big, you know too much, you know more, you are better than this behavior, or maybe you aren't. And then I lean towards maybe I am not. So I had to go back to that healing space and wonder how I got there. There were so many times that I was being disrespected by this human being before this even occurred, and I would gently tell her that's disrespectful, because there'll be stuff like, knowing what I do, she said she would often tell me she's going to be the best at it, but in a way to let me know I'm going to be better than you one day. Just like, but why do you need to compete with me? Well, why do you need to continue to tell me you're going to be the best or better than me one day in the way that you're doing it, and I'm in the middle of teaching you something? It was quite strange, and I never took it as personal, even though something about it really upset me. Because I'm like, what would be the point of you saying that to me? Can't you just heal just to heal? You don't have to be better than anybody. And so, again, that's another problem I have. I would stay around too long. Once I see indicators that somebody's about to do me in, I just assume that they're not intending to do that, you know? So I evaluated all of that before I got to the space of saying, hey, Sid, why do you stay so long after someone showed you repeatedly that they're going to harm you? Whether it be emotionally, financially, or some other, why do you keep staying? 1. 2, why didn't you nip that in the bud when it first upset you? 3, why did you let it go so far to the point where you've exploded at this human being that has no way of defending herself against that energy? That's unfair. And now, even though she did what she did, that is bullying. You have to ring yourself in. You have to learn to defend yourself without taking it there. See, the only person at this particular stage of this healing process, only type of person that I want to be able to take it there with, and I hope I never do have to, is someone of equal intellect, strength, courage, all the things that I've been able to cultivate and build through all of the different challenges I've had in life. I don't ever want to just elbow somebody who ain't got those things. And I know sometimes it is necessary, but it never should ever feel good. It never does, to be honest with you. I've done it, but it never, in the end, feels good. But I had been setting boundaries and making it plain when someone does something intentionally to cause me harm, make it clear without cussing them out, without going off, without sending out any energy, anything like that. I've been doing that for quite some time since that incident. So the same person came back this past April. And at the time, I was dealing with a lot. My kid was not really healthy. She was not doing well. And it was around the clock monitoring and care. I was stressed out. I was exhausted. I was going through a good bit. So when she called, I was like happy. Even at the moment, I was happy. Mostly because in my mind, it's like, did she figure out what she did was wrong and heal that aspect of her and we can be friends again? Because we had such great times together. But there's something in my spirit that was like, nah, she ain't healed. Something else is up. Because she questioned me about something that she absolutely knew the answer to. And it felt like, this feels like a setup. And I argued with myself and I said, nah, this is the trauma paranoia talking. But on the other side, it still felt that way. And it seems she only came back to cause me harm. I don't know what kind of harm she was trying to cause. I don't know. I don't care. I'm just choosing not to engage it. But at this point, it actually illuminated that I still have that aspect of myself, or had. Because I don't think the initial contact was the test. I think the other side was the test, because I had to dive right into shadow work right after that. Because I had anger. I had all the stuff that I felt when she initially harmed me came up. I had anger, I had fear, I had resentment. And the fear is mostly of me doing something completely, out the box. It's like, oh, is she going to trigger me into like that aspect of me that just don't get one single, you know what? Is this going to cause me to get off my healing journey? Because I'm doing really, really well. Because sometimes I don't know. I suffer PTSD chronically. And so sometimes that is reactionary, but I've got a great deal of control over it at this point. I control this, And so I was really concerned about all those things. And then at the end of the day, I was like, is this worth it for this one person? I think love is always worth it. But self-love supersedes any other love. That's the bliss part. Self-love supersedes any other love. And I firmly believe it was not to re-engage. I can just make new friends and choose my vibe around me. And even if it's a pink flag, at this particular point, I don't bother with it. Like, I'm not going to be mean to you overtly, but you are a surface level associate, but you are not my friend. my friends are family to me. I mean that very, very deeply on a visceral level. And so I definitely did go through a whole layers, and I'm just mad because I'm like, she probably only reached out to me because she had stuff that she got going on and want me to help her again. Because that's a lot of times why she would reach out to me. And as I typically do, I posted my shadow work in the process till I got to a space where it's like, you know what if, thoughts create reality. What if she actually is genuine and she's healed those aspects and she's actually trying and making an effort? So then at the end of that shadow work, it's like, I'm really proud of her. As hurtful as it still is that happened to me, I'm going to take her at her word that she's not that person anymore. And it's up to her to decide to continue to be that person. But doesn't mean I have to re-engage you. And guess what I found out? And I'm okay. That she's probably still that person. So I don't know why. What was that about? What initiated it? I have no idea. But I love her from over there. But I also learned that I don't actually have to do what everybody else is doing right now. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because again, I'm telling y'all, I don't always have everything figured out in this aspect. I don't think I do. I don't want to destroy someone's reputation to feel better. I've done it before. And even in doing it, in my most angry, I still wouldn't just say their name. I would describe what they did to me and put their initials in the post. But that's mostly because they have kids and family and all these things and connections, that it wasn't about destroying this person. You'd have to actually know that person personally to even know what I was talking about. And they have the absolute right to defend themselves. And it was still my word against theirs. And that's how I want it to be. And even that I don't want to do anymore. I have no desire. I want to keep doing me and being happy and free of all of that kind of stuff. And I know there's a brilliant argument. I think it's brilliant. That again, if you never hold these people accountable, how do people learn to be accountable? Well, this is the line I'm towing. Learning to be accountable through my own self. So vibrating where I am and choosing to do what I do and showing y'all how I do it is a way to do that too. While privately letting people know what the hell they're not going to do over here. I don't need to take from you to give to me. And again, I don't know if I'm right or wrong about that, but yeah. I'm going to choose to tell these stories when they're necessary, but I don't need to put somebody's name out there like that. I don't know, something about it just doesn't sit right with my spirit. And I can't do it. And even though there are times where I'm so angry, I have actually literally in the past, it's been a while, made videos or made posts where the person was blowed up and the name was in there, all that. And I'm just like, why did this feel like gross sewage to me? And my folks will come through and like, because that ain't you. That was never you. Find a way to heal yourself and teach about these things without having to cause harm. And that's what I'm choosing to do. Some people think it's necessary. Nah. In person, mano a mano, you try me, you gonna get what for. Period. But on the internet or to other people, nah, I ain't the person to sit down and gossip with you, hun. I ain't the person to sit down and tell somebody else's story either, even if it's something against me. Now, if you're a close friend and I'm venting to you, that's a whole different animal. And you have to really be a close friend, because I don't just vent to anybody, because that's not, most people don't know what the hell's going on in my life, and I